Welcome to another live episode of the Wisco Fanatics Show, where we discuss the Packers, Bucks, Brewers, Badgers football, and basketball from an optimistic perspective. Wisco Fanatics is brought to you by Cardboard Legacy, Wisconsin's most complete sports card shop. Buy, sell, grade, and consign all at their location in Oshkosh.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Wisco Fanatics Tuesday night. Been a crazy couple weeks here at Wisco Fanatics. Last week, Tyler missed with some family stuff. I had to go live off my phone last Tuesday because my internet was out, so that was fun. I had a Ryan Han solo by myself for over half the episode last Wednesday, but this week I got my laptop back, and then two of our panel members are missing. Tyler got gifted some Bucks tickets from his boss, so he got to bring the family, so that's fun. And Simon is in the military, so he is forced to do things he does not want to do. Ryan knows all about that.
I can promise you he would much rather be here right now.
I can promise you he would. We have an interesting episode today. We're going to give you guys an update on the stat projections that we do in the preseason. Just something to, as a filler episode, really, but it's fun for us, a lot of work, but it's fun. And then we're going to go into our preview versus the Bears, which the Packers are going to win. I'm just going to tell you right now. Don't even have to get to the score predictions to tell you they're going to win, but I'm going to tell you the score predictions anyways. When we get there, it'll be fun. So as we get into these stat projections, I'm writing down. So Tyler put these together, and I look at this, and I'm like, dude, how the hell did he write all this in that short amount of time? It makes no sense to me. The guy is a robot. But he says offense left out Dillon, Lloyd, Musgrave, Melton, Sims, due to injuries and role. So Love updated to 15-week pace. Projection, we had him for 354, 520, 4,035 yards, 35 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. He's on pace for 315 of 510 for 3,900 yards, 32 touchdowns, and 21 interceptions. He wrote, obviously, we'd like to see the completion percentage be higher. Drops have hurt that number a bit, and the interceptions are high, a number that hopefully doesn't increase too much in that second half. Also coming out during the end of the Jaguars game does lower the number of a smidge as well. But overall, we're not terribly far off. I agree with that.
Yeah.
So
I think obviously the interceptions need to come down. Hopefully I know he was higher in the first half of last year, and you would have liked to see him grow already, but maybe with this bye week, with a reset, getting them settled in, they can start to get in a roll. Not to jump into this preview for this week, Chicago has a very good secondary, so I don't expect a huge game from him. But even if hopefully we can at least see him eliminate the mistakes going forward.
Yeah, I agree. So then Josh Jacobs, projection 258, 1158 yards, 11 touchdowns, 43 receptions, 322 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He's on pace for 299 carries.
Nice.
1,439 yards, 4.8 yards a carry. 6 touchdowns, 36 receptions for 242 yards and 2 touchdowns.
I expect the touchdown numbers to rise while we get into worse weather too.
I agree. He said 1,439 yard pace. Damn, Josh Jacobs has been a true workhorse and a touchdown. The touchdown number may seem out of touch, but would anyone be surprised if Josh Jacobs scores 5 touchdowns in the next 8 games? No, and I agree with that. Tucker Kraft. Now, this is a guy that's really going to freaking go crazy on the projections because nobody saw this, right? We saw like a 50-50 split in the preseason.
Yep.
He wrote projection 36 receptions, 378 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He's on pace for 53 receptions, 710 yards, and 9.5 touchdowns.
I'll say he's already got more touchdowns and yards, I'm pretty sure, than what we projected.
Yeah. Tucker Kraft became way more important to this offense after the injury to Luke Musgrave, and his pace reflects the tight end number 1.
Yeah,
I agree.
And honestly, that pace would reflect a tight end, top 5 to 8 tight end and productivity throughout the entire NFL.
Yeah, so. I agree. So for Christian Watson, he wrote missed week 5 projection, 53 receptions on 83 targets, 764 yards and 8 touchdowns. He's on pace for 32 receptions, 54 targets, 466 and 4 touchdowns. He wrote Watson suffered early in the season when Malik was filling in for Jordan Love. And if you were to pace his numbers over the last 4 games and the season numbers, would be 48 receptions on 80 targets, 608 yards, and 4 touchdowns, much closer to our projected numbers for him. What do you got on him?
Yeah, and he's someone I want to see a lot more involved in the offense. Like, I feel like we just got to get – don't get me wrong, I think Dontavian Wicks has all the makings to be a very, very good wide receiver. But right now, his catch rate and everything when targeted is god awful. I would like to see some of those targets starting to go to Watson.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. So Romeo Doubs, he said missed week 5 as well. Projection 63 receptions on 92 targets, 682 yards, and 8 touchdowns. So we projected everybody to have 8 touchdowns. Pace for 60 receptions on 88 targets, 824 yards, and 4 touchdowns. He wrote, "We're pretty spot on with targets and receptions, not far off on yards. We're happy that he's exceeding the projections there as a downfield threat and not just a possession receiver. Similarly to Josh Jacobs, would anyone be surprised if Romeo Doubs went on a tear of touchdowns to finish with 8? No. I agree. You have anything on?
No, touchdowns are a little finicky with the wide receiver and stuff, especially with Jordan Love being in and out and everything. I mean, Malik is filled in great. Don't get me wrong, but like, they've kind of been spread out evenly. We just don't have as many as we probably anticipated at this point.
Mm-hmm. So Dontavian Wicks, he's projected 50 receptions, 75 targets, 691 yards, and 6 touchdowns. He's on pace for 30 receptions on 79 targets, 363 yards, and 7.5 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's just not good enough.
I'll go to you after I read everything, and then I'll ask you. Tyler wrote, "This one hurts. We were counting on an improvement in catching for Wicks this season, but he's struggling mightily with drops, so he probably won't reach our numbers except for touchdowns." Okay. You got anything on Wicks?
Yeah, my bad on that. So what I think and that's what I just kind of mentioned with Watson, you cannot only have 30-some catches on 79 targets like over the course of the year. That's just not good enough. You got to, if he's not going to catch the ball, I mean, you got to start. No matter how open he's going to be, you need to ease him into it and just keep working with him until you really, really feel comfortable. Like just last week against the Lions, he dropped another touchdown. I mean, like we can't have that. If that's what, and maybe Watson isn't getting his target because he doesn't get as open as many times, but I feel like Watson's done pretty good getting open too. And he just probably needs more opportunities. While Wicks continues to work through this. By no stretch of the imagination, I'm not saying move on from Wicks or anything like that. We've seen this with Adams. I think this is probably worse than what Adams was, to be honest. So hopefully they just kind of, luckily we have the depth to where we can continue to work through it with him. So yeah, that's where I'm at with him. But I do agree he probably needs to start to lose some targets until we feel very comfortable that he's going to catch the ball.
Yeah. So Jaden Reed, we projected him 66 receptions, 94 targets, 826 yards, and 6 touchdowns. He's on pace for 68 receptions, 89 targets, 1,171 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Tyler wrote, "All right, boys, we nailed this one. Outside of him exceeding our yardage total by a few hundred yards, receptions, targets, and touchdowns, we're pretty spot on." And I agree with that. Yeah. What do you think about Jaden Reed?
Yeah, and I think I had him as my highest target receiver on the entire team, so I feel good about that. Yeah. I am very surprised about his average per reception right now. He's averaging a huge number. So that I do expect that to regress a little bit, but I still think he's going to make some big plays too to keep it up. So very solid season from him. So
yeah. So now we're switching to defense here. We're starting with Kenny Clark. Tyler wrote, projected 46 tackles, 51 pressures, 8 sacks, 2 passes defended, and 23 stops. He's on pace for 38 tackles, 30 pressures, 0 sacks, 0 passes defense, and 15 stops. He wrote, credit to Jake. That's me. He predicted pretty low on Kenny's numbers due to the scheme change. That seems to be coming true. Hopefully a strong second half can get him closer to our numbers. I agree with that. Although I will say, if we're going to give credit to me for this, we're going to have to discredit me for my linebacker numbers because I really thought the linebackers were going to be better this year.
Yeah.
Clay Walker has really let me down. I mean, I'm not gonna get into some bad things and talk negatively about the guys because I know they're trying and a scheme change is tough. But I really thought the linebackers would be better in run defense. I don't know what happened with that. But
we need Kenny Clark's December Kenny to start November Kenny because he needs to start. But we need pressure. Like it is hurting us badly right now, not getting to the quarterback or having to manufacture some crazy pressures to get to the quarterback. Everyone's like, well, we have 22 on the year. That's somewhat middle of the pack. Don't forget we had 8 against Tennessee. That means in the other 8 games we've played, we've had 14.
Yeah.
So not even 2 per game.
Yeah. That's pretty bad. So Tyler said Devontae Wyatt updated our projection to 14 games. We projected 34 tackles, 38 pressures, 6 sacks, 1 pass defense, and 20 stops. He's on pace for 28 tackles, 32 pressures, 7 sacks, no passes defense, and 19 stops. He said we're pretty good on this one. I agree. You got anything on Wyatt?
Yeah, no, impressed. I really hope he can stay healthy the rest of the way. I think he's out of the two right now. He's probably the one we pick up their 5th-year option on.
Agreed. TJ Slayton projected 44 tackles, 14 pressures, 1.5 sacks, 3 pass defense, and 28 stops. He is on pace for 32 tackles, 15 pressures, 0 sacks, 0 pass defense, and 15 stops. If Slayton can have an effective second half against the run, it would go a long way to helping the Packers defense and our projections. I agree.
Yeah, we're going to need someone to step up now that, for the one thing, even though Preston Smith wasn't getting home, what do we always talk about? He's very solid in run defense. So that's going to hurt a little bit. So we're going to need these guys to step up.
Here's a guy that I think can fill in at D-tackle and D-end. I think he'll get more snaps overall. Carl Brooks.
Yep.
Projected 33 tackles, 32 pressures, 5 sacks, 4 passes defense, and 14 stops. He is on pace for 23 tackles, 23 pressures, 3 sacks, no passes defense, and 17 stops. Brooks is a player whose playing time could increase with the Preston Smith trade. So I didn't read that before, but I think we were all thinking it. He's a little bit on the tweener side. He may get lost in translation every once in a while on the run game on the inside, which I think is why they were kind of okay with getting rid of Preston and moving Brooks out there. He can use his quickness out there. He can still be a strong run defender. So I think it just makes total sense to have Brooks as kind of a fill-in guy after LVN. And Enagbare has actually been playing really good football the last couple of weeks. So
yeah. And honestly, I would say Carl Brooks probably has a better pass rush repertoire than LVN at this point, who's been
I would agree with that.
Pretty disappointing. So hopefully Carl Brooks, if he does start lining up outside, I feel like he might be able to create some pressure or at least some havoc from out there. So I would like to see them at least try that. Yeah. There is that one linebacker too they picked up. Like the name is escaping me right now, but he has some pass rushing ability too that I think he could see some snaps out there.
Yeah, from
why can't I remember the name?
Yeah, from Washington, right?
Davis, right?
Yeah, first rounder. I don't remember his name either. I'm blanking on it.
Domin Davis or something like that.
Yeah. So Tyler Rowe for Colby Wooden. He was a DNP for his 4 weeks. We projected 22 tackles, 14 pressures, 2 sacks, a pass defense, and 13 stops. He's on pace for 19 tackles, 12 pressures, 2.5 sacks, 2 passes defense, and 10 stops. He said we're good on this one, and I think that's all that needs to be said. Colby Wooden's been a good backup.
Good role player.
All right, here's where it's going to go to shit.
Yeah.
Rashawn Gary, 52 tackles, 68 pressures, 15.5 sacks, 2 passes defense, 22 stops. 45 tackles is his pace, 38 pressures, 6 sacks, 2 passes defense, and 24 stops. Gary has grown as an edge defender, but simply put, we need more from him in the pass rush game. And I think that's all that needs to be said about him. We need him to get home more.
If he wants to be considered in the top of the pass as a pass rusher, he needs to get home. I get pressure and hurries are nice, but the best of the best get home. Yep,
agreed. So now we are on LVN. Projected 46 tackles, 33 pressures, 7 sacks, 2 pass defense, and 24 stops. He's on pace for 38 tackles, 11 pressures, 2 sacks, 0 pass defense, and 15 stops. He wrote, we seem to have overestimated the growth in his pass rush prowess. However, I do believe he is progressing as a football player, as I've seen good things from him at times this season. I'd like to see a little more consistency in the second half, and he is the player that we will see the biggest increase in snaps with Preston Smith gone.
Yeah, he's young, so there's still hope there. We do. I'm trying to look up how old he is. I think he's 23, so he's still young, pretty young yet. So he's got all the physical traits. They just really, I don't know how much is going to change this season, but I really hope he gets together with some of these really good pass rushers, or finds a way to get together with some of these pass rushers in the offseason and works on some moves.
Yeah, maybe hit up a retired like J.J. Watt or something like that, or go work out with T.J. Watt, or go work out with Max Crosby, or guys like that. You know.
You know, J.J. Watt's like a good option because I imagine that dude, like, he makes money obviously being on Fox and all that stuff. But if Van Ness says, hey, I'll pay you, $50,000 or whatever to work with me for 3 weeks on pass rushing moves, all this, blah, 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 or however much he pays him, in the end, I don't know if this is something that happens. But for me, if I was that player, I'd be like, I'm going to invest in myself and invest in this training, because if it works out and I increase these numbers, I know I'm going to get that money back tenfold plus.
Oh, yeah.
So especially in the pass, like if you become an elite edge rusher, those are like the second highest paid people in the NFL.
Yeah, they're
them wide receivers and quarterbacks.
Yep, there's quarterbacks and there's guys that stop the quarterbacks and there's guys that help the quarterbacks. That's how the pay scale goes. Kingsley Enagbare, projected 36 tackles, 25 pressures, 4 sacks, a pass defense, and 16 stops. He's on pace for 36 tackles, 19 pressures, 3 sacks, 0 pass defense, and 15 stops. He wrote, "We're pretty close on Enagbare. I think he's developing nicely, and when he gets there, will be worth a second contract. He's also forced 2 fumbles and is another player due for more snaps with the Smith trade." I was going to say, man, real quick before I let you go, those numbers, he could absolutely boom those numbers, in my opinion. The way he's been looking stronger and stronger every week. So any thoughts on that?
I know Tyler said that LVN will probably receive the most snaps for Preston Smith. I don't know if we'll see. I think it could be Enagbare because we need to produce some sacks. So maybe on first down we'll see LVN more, or we're hoping he'll actually do something against the run game. But I think second and third down, anytime you're in second and 6 longer, it should be Enagbare on the field right now. So
yeah, I agree. So now we're on the interior linebackers. Quay Walker, 134 tackles, 19 pressures, 3 sacks, 5 passes defensed. Yikes. And 49 stops. He's on pace for 128 tackles, 12 pressures, 3 sacks, 0 passes defensed, and 36 stops. He's missed week 8. Tyler wrote, had Quay been able to play all 17 games, I believe these numbers would have been pretty damn close, and I agree with that.
Yeah, and I agree. The one that hurts us is the 0 passes defended, right? Because he gets targeted so often. So we need him to make some plays in the passing game. Like, you have a couple big games a couple offenses that run through their tight end, or if their tight end gets going, they really get going, and that would be Chicago. Well, I don't think they have the ability to really get going, but they can find success through tight end. But then look at San Francisco. Whenever they're struggling, they go to Kittle, and that's who gets them kind of going. So, and a lot of times you'll see Quay or someone against them. So we really need him to step up in the coverage game, or he needs to be off the field more.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about tight ends, man. I mean, we're going to have games against Kittle coming up, like you said. We have Hockenson coming up because we play the Vikings again.
Laporta again.
We have Laporta again. I mean, I think Cole Kmet is probably one of the better players on the Bears. When you talk about a consistency standpoint, you know what you're going to get from him every single game. Not overall like tippy top of the world, but consistency. Cole Kmet gives you what he gives you. He's one of the best players on the Bears roster in that area.
Very well tight end.
So he's a pretty good player. I mean, we got to face some good tight ends. And the Bears fired their OC. We're going to get into that shortly. But we're going to continue here. We're on Edgerrin Cooper, projected 71 tackles, 12 pressures, 1.5 sacks. Oh, we were low on that. 3 passes defense and 26 stops. He's on pace for 83 tackles, 9.5 pressures, 5 sacks, 4 passes defense, and 24.5 stops. That's a nice rookie season for a guy who's been a backup.
Very nice rookie season.
Tyler wrote, nicely done, boys. Outside of him getting home on more sacks than we anticipated, give credit to Jeff Hafley for stunting these things up. We are pretty damn close on rookie linebackers whose role was not clear when we were making these projections, but we anticipated increasing slowly, and we're pretty close on these numbers. I agree with that.
Yep.
Eric Wilson, 45 tackles, 9 pressures, 1 sack, 4 passes defense, and 28 stops. He's on pace for 61 tackles, 6 pressures, 4 sacks, 4 pass defense, and 27 stops. We all had Eric Wilson down for 4 sacks this season, right? No? Okay. We're low on tackles as Wilson saw the biggest increase in playing time with Quay dealing with concussion. But other than that, we're close on pressures and nailed stops. He said, good job, guys. I think Eric Wilson's role was pretty predetermined. I think we all kind of saw what was going to happen.
Obviously getting home on the sacks has been nice, but those are another thing that's a little finicky, but obviously Hafley's done a lot to draw up pressure from the linebackers.
Yep. All right, so Isaiah McDuffie, we projected 84 tackles, 8 pressures, 0.5 sack, 4 pass defense, and 36 stops. He's on pace for 104 tackles, 7.5 pressures, 1 sack, 4 pass defense, and 23 stops. Tyler wrote, just been a pretty average linebacker. I expect Cooper to continue eating into his snaps.
Yep.
I think we're all okay with that.
Yeah.
Not that I hate Isaiah McDuffie. but he just doesn't have the athleticism to keep up with tight ends. And we talked about
the only thing I can see is that Isaiah retains his role and Cooper starts to eat into Quay's more. So we can talk about that here shortly, though, when I talk about defense.
Yeah. So Jair, Tyler said projections updated to 14 games. So projected 45 tackles, 10 passes defensed, 3 interceptions, 31 targets, receptions on 58 targets, 3 touchdowns allowed. He's on pace for 37 tackles, 16 passes defensed, 2 interceptions, 33 receptions on 58 targets, and 5 TDs allowed. Tyler wrote, solid job, boys. Hopefully Jair gives up less TDs than he's on pace to allow, but we did pretty well here. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Eric Stokes, 54 tackles, 10 pass defense, 3 ints, 54 on 85 targets, 5 TDs allowed. He's on pace for 49 tackles, 0 passes defensed. That's a good number for a corner. 0 interceptions. He's projected to give up 47 receptions on 70 targets and 5 TDs allowed. Also on pace to finish with 2 sacks. Lost some playing time early on. Hopefully he can have a good second half in coverage. If he doesn't, he is not going to be a Packer next year.
Yeah. I hope he has a very short leash.
Yeah. So now we have Keyshawn Nixon, 57 tackles, 7 pass defense, 2 ints, 58 on 72 targets and 4 TDs allowed. He is on pace for 79 tackles, 6 passes defense, no interceptions, 49 receptions on 72 targets. So a little bit lower on the receptions, same along on targets, and 7 touchdowns allowed. Forced into some extra playing time due to injuries to Valentine and Alexander. He's allowed a lower completion percentage than we projected, but on pace to allow more touchdowns. Hopefully he can lock in and change the latter part.
Yeah.
God, I didn't think I was going to say this, but I'm really hoping the Packers trade him in the offseason.
Yeah. I was not a fan of the contract when they gave it to him. I thought if we're giving it to him because he's going to return as well. I just was like, well, that we were also coming off a season where he hurt us returning. Like I talked about it ad nauseum, like how much it was actually hurting us and losing yards. So if they can find a trade partner, I do hope they offload him. Kind of like what I said, a week or two ago. We've made free agency moves once picks were not working. We've put a lot of capital into cornerback picks, and it's just not working anymore. Yeah, sure, we found Douglas and Nixon on people's scrap heaps, but we traded Douglas, who, God, I wish we had him back, and Nixon. And for whatever reason, we really paid Nixon, and I was not a fan of it at that point. So I kind of, unless something turns on this last half of the season for him. Look, he's going to be here the rest of the season, so hopefully he can just turn it on and get us to where we want to be, but we'll see what happens. But I hope they don't need to sign a top cornerback in the offseason, but I'm hoping they like a middling, like ranked like 20 to 35 type cornerback. That's going to be a very solid number 2.
I could see them in the second round drafting a corner next year in the draft. I could really see that.
I can see it. I just don't want it to happen. I want it to happen, but I also want him to sign somebody. I don't want to just bank on a rookie again.
I mean, they gotta make some decisions coming up here on the defensive side of the ball. And I know we've been drafting defense forever, but I think they're going linebacker in the first round. That's what my gut telling me right now.
Yeah,
I think they're going linebacker corner.
Yeah,
and with the reason why I say I hope they trade Keyshawn Nixon is we're gonna have to make some decisions and start paying some wide receivers coming up here. Next year is going to be the final contract year for Romeo and Christian Watson. I want to keep both those guys.
Yeah,
and then the year after that is going to be Jaden Reed. And you think he's going to be cheap? No,
he's going to be the top paid.
Yeah,
wide receiver on this team.
So now we have 3 more left. So bear with me. First one, Xavier McKinney, the 2 best free agent acquisitions in the NFL, both came from the Giants.
Yeah.
What?
You love to see it.
Xavier McKinney, Tyler wrote, my all-pro bold prediction looks pretty good. It does. Projection 92 tackles, 12 passes defense, 5 interceptions, 29 targets or 29 receptions on 60 targets, and 1 touchdown allowed. Oh, man. He is on pace for 79 tackles, 13 passes defense, 11 interceptions, which would be a Green Bay Packer record, by the way. The record holder for the Packers is 10. Also, I looked it up because I was like, man, I wonder what the record is. Charles Woodson had 4 seasons of at least 7 interceptions.
For the Packers?
Yes.
Wow.
The year when he won Defensive Player of the Year, he had 9 picks, and 3 of them went to the house.
Oh, wow.
Holy shit.
Good, how good I gotta go back and watch that season, I guess.
My God, dude. Seriously, when I looked at that, I started watching highlights. Anyways, Xavier McKinney's on pace to allow 13 receptions on 23 targets. That is lockdown city. And 0 touchdowns allowed. He wrote, I love that McKinney's on pace to have fewer tackles than we projected because it means players aren't getting to the second and third levels of our defense. Also love that we are egregiously high on targets and receptions because after the first 5 weeks, nobody has the nuts to throw at him anymore.
Yeah, well, you just said that he's on pace for 11 interceptions and on pace for 13 receptions allowed. He might almost allow the same amount of receptions as he does. How many receptions has he allowed so far?
That's a good. Well, if he's on pace for 13, it's got to be fucking 6 or 7.
Yeah, so he might be tied right now with interceptions versus receptions allowed. So
yeah, he might have as many receptions as he allows. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So Javon Bullard, we projected him 68 tackles, 6 pass defense, 3 interceptions, 28 receptions on 45 targets, and 4 touchdowns. He is on pace for 96 tackles, 2 passes defense, 0 interceptions, 44 receptions on 56 targets, and 2 touchdowns. Bullard is playing more slot than we even anticipated, bringing up those tackles and coverage numbers. But I love that even with increased coverage, he's still on pace to allow fewer TDs than we projected. I agree with that.
Yeah, he's having a fine rookie season. And for someone that's getting moved around, we definitely expected him to maybe move into the slot, but it's happened a lot more than quicker than we anticipated because Evan Williams is a monster.
Yeah, I will say. So if we're gonna have a discussion about these 2 rookies, right, Evan Williams and Javon Bullard, they've both been in the box. They've both been single high safeties. They both had to cover wide receivers, running backs, tight ends. You want to talk about people want to complain when Goot drafts a guy and he doesn't turn out, right? How about we give him credit for drafting 2 safeties and both of them look like studs?
Yeah.
Play multiple positions. They tackle in space. They cover deep down the field. They can run with anybody. They're not afraid to stick their nose in there. I mean,
look at what's happened to our defense since we lost Evan Williams. I feel like we've completely turned into a bad defense since we've lost Evan Williams. And who was it? Was it you or Tyler that shared that redraft where they said that Evan Williams would go?
That was slick. Yeah, he was drafted
8th overall. 8th overall.
Yeah.
That means PFF, who's grading all these rookies and stuff, is recognizing him as a top 10 rookie right now.
Yeah.
That's why.
Maybe I wonder what he was overall on defense. I wonder how many of those were offense. I should go back and look.
Yeah.
But man of the hour, Evan Williams. We're gonna get to injury designation at some point into our pregame here. So Evan Williams missed weeks 1 and 9, projected 51 tackles, 5 passes defense, 2 interceptions, 23 receptions on 35 targets, and 2 TDs allowed. He is on pace for 60 tackles, 6 passes defense, 2 interceptions, 13 receptions on 26 targets. He's also only projected 13 receptions and 0 TDs allowed. I think we did pretty solid here overall. I think we did a pretty good job of predicting all of these 3 rookies who are playing prominent roles on the defense. Predicting rookies is something I think is pretty hard to do, and I think we did a nice job as a consensus between the 4 of us. I could not agree more. Rookies are tough. They're the toughest part of that because you're like, where does this guy fit in? Especially when you have 2 guys that are the same position, right? Like Bullard and Williams. It's like, where the heck do you just play 3 safeties? And then we sign Xavier McKinney, so he's playing. So that was tough. I agree with that. So
yeah, I just looked it up. There's 1 defensive player ahead of Evan Williams in that redraft.
So he was the second best defense.
Jared Verse was the only one ahead of him.
Oh, Jared Verse is a stud, dude. So I actually don't disagree with that at all.
Yeah.
He is absolutely a monster. The Rams got a good one with him.
Yep.
So we are going to get into our preview here for Packers Bears. So Packers are favored by 6 in this one. The over-under is 41.5. So I always like to go over that stuff for some reason because it's interesting to me. So as the Packers are 6-3 and the Bears are 4-5, and they look like they should maybe be 0-5 right now, as they are just spiraling in the absolute wrong direction. Before we get into it, we do have some comments. So I'm going to read some comments. Wayne said, "I'm here." Hi, Wayne. Said, "I'm ready for the Packers to open a can of whoop ass on the Chicago Bears." I agree with that. Wayne, you don't have to put the stars for ass, man. I'll say it. I don't care. I'm not like that. Ass is a acceptable word. So Darian said, I feel the Packers should go defense with their draft picks as far as scheme fits. I agree with that. Goot also drafted a stud linebacker in Edgerrin Cooper. He absolutely nailed the draft this last year. I mean, even if you go to Morgan, who got his first start last week, and I thought he did fine, but he's gonna move back to the backup role and splitting time at right guard if we get Josh Myers back. Center is also a big question mark. Are they gonna look at how important Josh Myers looks after last week, man? Just saying.
Yeah, Jenkins could not snap that ball properly.
Holy crap.
Talking about the draft real quick, I do think that center could be something we look at earlier too. So, along with defense. So,
okay. So, let's get into it. Let's get into defense. So, what do you see for the Packers defense versus the Bears offense?
Yeah. So for me, what I'm looking for is I think we just need a solid game from the linebackers for sure, because we kind of talked about this already. But Cole Kmet can really be an outlet for Caleb Williams to get comfortable. Caleb Williams is struggling really bad right now because that offensive line cannot protect him at all. So last thing we want to do is give him a quick outlet to Cole Kmet. And also with Swift, he's another person that can get a lot of screens, a lot of drop downs, and make something of it. So they can create a problem. But so don't let a struggling offense that just fired the offense coordinator. Apparently veterans who loved Caleb Williams in the spring are talking about wanting him benched. I don't know what the truth is behind that, but Pro Football Focus is tweeting it. They don't typically just tweet whatever they want. You know what I mean? So there's probably some smoke to that fire. So don't give a struggling quarterback anything easy. So I am interested to see how they use the linebacker post buy and see if they've identified anything that can help either like Quay Walker start to perform better, or they realize that nope, we just got to put Cooper on the field more, and that might be over Quay or that might be over McDuffie. So I know they do a lot of self scout during bye week, and they typically give them something to work on. So I'm hoping there was something identified there. Their offensive line of the Bears struggles a lot. They just gave up 9 sacks. So I expect the Packers to throw some exotic stunts at them with the linebackers. And I'm hoping, maybe even the secondary, you could see some safety blitz this week. So just throw some exotic stunts at them to get home and make Williams have to think really quickly because I think he can make mistakes. He hasn't thrown a bunch of interceptions. He has 5 on the year, but you can get home with him. He'll hold on to the ball and you can get sacks against him.
Well, part of the reason he doesn't throw interceptions is because he holds onto the ball for 10 years. That's why he gets sacked all the time. Yep. He thinks, and I've watched quite a few Bears games because, it's not like I care, but I like to laugh at them, especially after all the talk that they do during the off seasons every 3.5 years. It's like a presidential candidate, right? They get their new candidate in house and then they ruin them. They burn the house down almost immediately. They're just repeating history. It's absolutely disgusting. I'm starting to actually kind of feel bad for the kids. And it makes sense why Caleb Williams was asking for part ownership of the Bears, because he wanted to make some money after they absolutely destroy this kid's legs and head.
I love the picture of the side by side of Justin Fields and Caleb Williams, both like just with their head back, like just sighing on the bench. I'm like, man, that's
like 4 or 5 games in, and he's doing that look already, dude. Like, bro, you better buckle up. You got a 5-year contract, buddy. Holy crap.
Yeah.
But
and all the memes of you're not going to punt a lot out here.
Oh, dude, and the punter has more total yards, by the way.
Yeah, I seen that. Yeah,
that was so funny when I saw that today. So one thing that I looked at is I look at third down. So I looked at the Packers' third down percentage. They're at 33.01%, which is 6th best in the NFL. Overall, last year in 2023, they allowed 43%. So they're 10% better than they were last year. That's a big improvement. Yeah. Now, a lot of people are talking about how this defense is the same yardage-wise as it was last year. But you know what? They're forcing turnovers, and they're getting people off the field more often on third down. That's the biggest difference. You can give up yards all day. Yards is like the biggest trash stat that you can have out there.
Yeah, I don't know why people rank defenses by yards.
Yeah, it makes no sense to me. You got to look at the nitty-gritty stuff, the third down percentage, the turnovers, the red zone percentages. Like that's the stuff that we cover, and that's the stuff that matters, right?
Yeah, and points per game is king.
So. Yeah, agreed. So, again, Packers right now 6th in the NFL. Over the last 3 games, the Packers are only allowing 26.4% on third down percentage. That's 4th in the NFL over that last 3 games. So you go to the Bears offense. The Bears offense is only completing 28.69% of third downs.
Oof.
That is 31st in the NFL. Over the last 3 games, 15%.
That's what I said. Like, that's what I just said. Do not let this team get easy completions. Get up in their faces, because I have a feeling with the new offensive coordinator, they're going to want to get a lot of quick completions and stuff. Do not allow it, because otherwise they can crank that number up, and then you're letting a really bad team have a chance against you. Don't let that happen.
I'll say one more thing, and then I'll get to my point. I'm going to piggyback off that, actually. So, again, like you said, they gave up 9 sacks to New England. New England went into that game with 16 sacks on the year.
Oh, man.
They had 16. They're a worse pass rush than we are by far. Now, obviously, the talent gap is there, too. We're paying Rashawn Gary and Kenny Clark lots of money to be those guys.
Yeah.
I have a feeling they eat this week. I have a feeling that
better.
Caleb is going to hold on to the ball a little bit too long. I think what's really going to happen, we have another comment. I will read that in a sec here, Darian. I think the thing is they're going to want to get the ball out quick. You can also – that's a very slippery slope to play. All of a sudden, you have 2 incompletions. Caleb Williams is thinking, oh, not again. You have 2 wide receivers that are looked at as – the end of the season, they were looked at as one of the best duos, right? Talking about DJ Moore and who am I thinking of? Keenan Allen. Both of them, I'm going to say this, man. They're giving disrespectful effort, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They're not going out there playing like they should for this kid.
Yeah.
And maybe the wins aren't piling up and all that stuff, but just as a leader, as a man, I mean, Keenan Allen is an old man now. He's got to show this kid the ropes of the NFL. DJ Moore is looked at as a perennial top 10 guy. That's what Bears fans were saying last year. His stats said the same thing. He was making big plays all over the field with Justin Fields. He's not giving it either.
Crazy part is Rome Odunze is leading him. Yeah, the crazy part is Rome Odunze is now leading him in yards.
And Rome Odunze has looked good at times too, in my opinion. Yeah. So I mean, that's bullshit in my opinion, how they're kind of treating that kid.
Yeah.
And if veterans are going in there and they say veterans, I think that DJ Moore is definitely one of them. You know, and I do feel bad for DJ Moore a little bit. You know, every year of his career, he's had a different starting quarterback every season.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's kind of reminding me of like some other great wide receivers that we've seen that can just never have consistent quarterback play, like DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, he's with Patrick Mahomes now. Don't get me wrong, Murray was fine from time to time, but he's hurt a lot. He was bouncing around, and I mean, he had Watson for a little bit in Houston, but it's always kind of been like bouncing around. So that would be a good one. Or like, who'd be another one that never had like consistent, really great, you know, there's been a few of them. So that it's just like they're really great wide receivers, but they just never really get to a really great quarterback. Maybe Steve Smith, but you know.
Yeah. So Darian said it's laughable for me that Caleb Williams has been outperformed by 2 fellow rookie QBs and Jaden Daniels and Drake May. I mean, Jaden Daniels has been a stud all year. Yeah. But I agree. Drake May coming in there and absolutely shitting on the Bears is funny to me. Yeah. Darian also said the Bears have an active streak of over 20 offensive drives without scoring a TD. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah. So as far as Tyler's notes on defense, he said D-line, of the 9 sacks the Patriots got, only 2 came from the D linemen. If some of ours can get home, Caleb will be getting helped up by his O-line a lot. I agree with that. So you got anything on special teams?
Not too much. I will say, so the Bears have allowed 18 kickoff returns and 22 punt returns. So there is an and you know, it's Windy City. You'll talk about the weather, but it's Windy City. I don't know what's going on with the weather this weekend. It looks like it'll be mild. But hopefully, you know, we'll have some kickoff returns. Overall, the Bears do have a solid punter and a kicker. So hopefully, you know, we can, you know, McManus can go into somewhere. It's another place that's hard to kick. So I just hope he's prepared, ready to go. I know he missed one last game, but it was also a monsoon. So hopefully that will not be the case, and he'll be, you know, we can rely on him returning to form as a veteran kicker. Because we will need to kick some field goals against this very good defense.
We will. The Bears defense is actually pretty solid. Yeah. So now we'll switch to coaching. I'll read Tyler's coaching notes. He said, let's get Eberflus fired. As much as I want him to stay with the Bears, he puts in parentheses, the Patriots were able to expose the Bears' O-line, let Hafley cook with stunts and blitzes. I think we second that.
Yeah.
So let's move on to offense. I'll just read Tyler's notes real quick here, and then me and you can kind of discuss it. For pass game distribution, he wrote, keep everyone involved. Patriots tight ends were able to give Bears some problems. So that sounds good for Tucker Kraft. Red zone, Chicago actually has the number one red zone defense, allowing just 37% of red zone trips into TDs. Packers, a little skewed at 47%, but still bottom fourth of the league. Not great. So for me on offense, I just wrote down some third down stats again. Packers on offense, only converting 37%. That's 19th in the NFL. And the Bears are only allowing 33% of third down conversion. So that's 7th in the NFL. So we got two of the best third down defenses in the NFL. So this game can get ugly real quick. What do you got?
Yeah, so for offense, I put the defense for the Bears is actually pretty dang good. It could cause some issues. A way to avoid those issues, like I said, we'll be slowing down their 15th ranked pass rush. So with our offensive line, I think we should be able to do that. Montez Sweat and Gervon Dexter can create some issues. So hopefully, up the middle for against Dexter, we're prepared. I trust our tackles, especially if Elton Jenkins is back out there against Montez Sweat. He's quick, so they just got to be ready for him. They're actually like the Packers in a sense that they send a lot of different pressures. So they have 14 players that have recorded at least one sack. So that's pretty impressive. The O-line needs to be ready to pick those pressures up. So they have allowed at least the second least passer rating at 77.4, only allowing 6 touchdowns while picking off 8 passes. So Jordan will have to be careful, and the wide receivers will have to make the most of their opportunities. However, their defense does have one weakness, and I expect the Packers to exploit it with their offensive line and their running game, and that's the rush defense. So they are allowing 133 yards per game rushing, but they allow 4.8 yards per carry. They've also allowed 9 touchdowns as well. So the O-line, I really feel like, can create some space. And I feel like against the Lions, Jacobs was killing them, but he got taken out of the game because of the mistakes and that we let them get away. It can happen because it's the NFL any given Sunday, but in my mind, as long as the Packers don't do something completely stupid, there's no way the Bears are going to be able to get far enough ahead to make it to where Josh Jacobs is out of the game plan. So for me, I expect Josh Jacobs to be pounding the rock and have a big game.
I agree with that. So Tyler wanted me to say something on Love. He said, as I stated in my recap notes last week, more 60-40 of the Favre Rodgers than 75-25. Justin made a comment. He said, damn, I missed the whole show. We just went over stat projections, and then we're just doing a quick preview here, but we're just having some open floor discussion. He said, I think Kraft is going to have a monster game this week. My fantasy team sure hope so.
Yeah, I could see it. I could see us having to look. The Bears have 3 really good cornerbacks. All 3 of them are good. So don't get me wrong; they have good linebackers too. But I think we will see some checkdowns, some bootlegs, some things like that. Especially if Josh Jacobs can get going, and then you're going to see those bootlegs to Tucker Kraft, or some crossers to Jaden Reed or Christian Watson. And that's how I feel like they're going to kind of make some hay.
So. My thing I'm going to say about Jordan Love is Toyotathon Jordan Love is coming back this week, just in case anybody was wondering. I know everybody saw the memes last year. Tyler had no idea what I was talking about when I texted him this morning. I was like, dude, Toyotathon starts this weekend, bro. And we play the Bears, bro. Like, that's the universe is telling us that the Packers are winning this week. Do you have any injury designation news?
Yes, I do, actually. So obviously we'll still have to keep an eye on it after a bye week and, no practice today for either teams. However, Matt LaFleur sounded very optimistic that Evan Williams, and Myers will all be able to go. And also the Packers designated Marshawn Lloyd to return. So that's exciting. I doubt that he'll play this week. However, if he's kind of been ready and ramping up like off to the side, I know he can't practice, but if they feel like his condition is good, they have the spot for Preston. They haven't filled it yet. That's going to go to Marshawn Lloyd. So it's possible that they could activate him. It'd be fun to watch him play the Bears too. But, we have Chris Brooks and Emmanuel Wilson, who are also playing really well. So that's for the Packers to watch. And then for the Bears, Tevin Jenkins and Tavarius Moore did leave the game for the Bears on Sunday. So we'll have to keep an eye on them. So, and then on top of it, their right tackle and left tackle were both questionable designations on practice. So we'll keep an eye on that too. So they're a little banged up by the line. I don't think they're missing anyone too big though.
Yeah. So a couple comments real quick before we move on. And I give you the weather report. Adarian said, I feel like Christian Watson and Dontavian Wicks will have to show up in this game in terms of receivers. who need to have big game. He also said Wicks has been best at separation on his routes, but needs to stop dropping so many passes. I agree with that.
Talked about that earlier. I will say I don't think any wide receiver necessarily has to have a big game this week, because I honestly do think that Josh Jacobs and the running back core should have a big game.
I agree with that. And Justin said they're only good if they're paying attention, and then he corrected it and said their cornerbacks are only good if they're paying attention and not focusing on the crowd, and I agree with that as well. Maybe, that's the same guy that Romeo decided to moss in the end zone week 1 last year. Maybe we can get that again.
Yeah.
So we're moving on to the weather report real quick here. So daytime, Chicago, Sunday, November 17th, cloudy, slight chance of rain shower, and high around 58, wind south-southwest at 10 to 15 mile per hour, 91% cloud coverage, 24% precipitation percentage. So
that's a very mild. That's not even that windy for Chicago this time of year. So I know it's a little more windy down by the lake wind effect, but that's a pretty mild November game that we're in store for. So hopefully we don't get any. I'm hoping we don't get any rain at all. So.
Yeah, it's just a fall Midwest day is how I think of it, honestly, when I was reading that. When I was writing that down, I should say. So now we go to our matchups to watch. So what do you have for matchup?
So for me, I put the O-lines versus D-lines. This seems like a game we can only lose if we get beat bad in the trenches, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So let me find this. I actually wrote this down on my phone because I didn't have my notebook on me. Where is it? Give me a second to find this real quick. I was sending a lot of photos to Tyler today, so I apologize. I found this really cool photo of LaMelo Ball earlier, and I just sent that to him as well. So it was actually a thing. Here it is. So I have Dontavian Wicks and Jayden Reed versus their cornerbacks. So I found these stats. So on Next Gen Stats, Jayden Reed, Next Gen Stats says that Reed is tied for 5th in the NFL with 4.5 yards of average separation per target. Reed is considered one of the league's most effective slot receivers, so that's crazy. And Dontavian Wicks leads the NFL in separation among wide receivers with at least 25 opportunities. Wicks has created separation on 23 of 28 opportunities and a separation percentage of 82%.
Please just catch the ball, buddy.
That's why he's getting the ball, because he's open. If he just catches the damn ball, man.
When wide receivers always open on their eyes or whatever they do. Yeah. Dontavian Wicks can do that, but he just has to put always open, sometimes catches.
He has to finish, man. So I thought that was a good stat. I'm looking for Dontavian Wicks to take over in the second half, honestly. I think that would be something that would just light a fire under everybody's ass.
I hope he just went and caught 110 balls or whatever from Amon-Ra does like something crazy every day from the jugs machine. I think is over 100 balls or something like that.
Yeah, Wicks needs to do something like that, man, honestly. Yeah. All right, so let's do X factors. What do you have for your X factor?
So I feel like I've made mine pretty clear, but it is Josh Jacobs. I just feed him against this defense and use him to open up some passing lanes. You just feed Josh Jacobs.
I like that. So I have something that's not a player or anything like that, but I want the Packers to get off to a fast start. So they only have one time this year where they had an opening drive touchdown. They have one against Tennessee, a game that we dominated. The other ones, we have punted 4 times, we have 2 field goals, an interception, and a missed field goal. That is all of our opening drives this year.
Wow, that's bad. That's pretty stark contrast to what we normally do.
Yeah, you're talking about 6 empty possessions to start a game, and then two of the 3 you have a field goal, including the one last game we played against the Lions when we should have scored a touchdown, honestly. They were kind of gifting us the end zone after the couple penalties on Brian Branch. But, man, we got to go down there. We got to score, and we got to start fast, man.
I wonder if that's something that Matt LaFleur looked at, because a lot recently we've been taking the ball to start the game if we win the kick. And I haven't always loved it, and maybe we need to change that up, and we need to put a little trust in our defense, especially against this team. Now, you could be devil's advocate and say, well, last thing we want to do is let them go down and score a touchdown, say that happens, and give them any kind of momentum. We'd like to get the ball, score, and put the pressure on them, but it just hasn't been happening so far. So hopefully they figured something out for after the bye.
Yeah, but how much pressure do you put on them if you stop them, then you go down and score?
True.
That's more pressure, in my opinion.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, and I like your point, a fast start. Like, this is a team that if we get off to a fast start, they're dead. Because they're going to have to throw the ball all the time, and they're not going to be able to do it.
It's funny you bring that up, actually. I wrote that down because I was interested to see what their split was. They throw the ball 57% of the time.
Wild.
That's insanely
because they're down a lot.
Yeah. So Justin said, X factor will be Gary. Got to get pressure on Williams, and he will fold like origami. I agree with that.
Yeah.
He also said Caleb Windy Williams will be blowing. I'm going to leave that alone right now. So right now we're going to go to some score predictions. So give me your score prediction from the head.
Yeah, like we've talked about, their defense is pretty good. So I did my head score. It's probably closer than people think, but I put 20-13. I think that'd be a fine game.
20-13.
Hopefully they score, like, if they're going to get that 13, hopefully it's like a last minute touchdown or something where it's 20-6 and we're just ready to get out of there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So Tyler wrote down 24-13. You guys, I know you guys are going to go nuts over my score predictions this week. From the head, I have Green Bay winning 37-12. Another game they don't score a touchdown.
That would be wild.
So what is your score prediction from the heart?
Yeah, I didn't go crazy, but I just went 24-10. Once again, I respect their defense, but I feel like this is a team we could beat by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, so first of all, Tyler rolled 30-10 Green Bay from the heart. So I saw the New England Patriots score 19 points.
That's true.
The New England Patriots offense is not as good as the Packers offense.
No, not even close.
The Packers are injured, and I think Jordan Love could throw with his left fucking hand, and I think they're better than the Patriots offense.
Yeah.
I have 42-12. I kept the same score for the Bears. Another game they're not scoring a touchdown. I really firmly believe that. 42-12.
I really hope that you are Tyler are right, because I feel like having a really good get right game instead of one where we struggled through the entire time to hopefully come out with a win at the end. Having a good get right game going into the game against San Francisco, I think would be big, because that is going to be a very big game for us. We need to prove that we can beat some of these contenders.
Yeah, and them having McCaffrey back scares the shit out of me.
Yeah.
So Justin wrote from the head, he has 28-10, and from the heart 31-10. I like both those scores. If we go in there and we win 42-12, you think they were losing their shit losing to the Patriots? If they lose 42-12 to the Green Bay Packers and a hobbled Jordan Love, who hopefully is feeling better going into this game,
he'll get booed off the field.
Oh, man. Dude, booed off the field.
Yeah.
They're going to have to stop some of the fans from going on the damn field and beating the shit out of Eberflus, dude. I'm serious, dude.
Did you see the WWE signs? They had
dude.
WWE, so they had wrestling, and for everyone watching, they had wrestling in Chicago this week, and there's people sitting there with Fire Eberflus signs.
So, what do you have for? You want to start on offense or defense? By the way, for Simon.
I'll start on offense.
All right, hang on. Let me change the little doohickey guy here. I'm always a little bit behind. That's the only part I don't like about hosting. I like everything else. You want to start on offense? You said.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead. Fire yours away.
So I put that Josh Jacobs doesn't get pushed out of this game plan, and he rushes for 150 plus.
I like that. I like that a lot. So to add on to your 150 yards, I also have a Josh Jacobs one. He has 3 touchdowns.
I could see it.
Definitely.
He gave a lot of rushing touchdowns.
So Tyler's offensive, Simon says, is Love 4 touchdowns in the first half.
That'd be wild. Against the secondary, that would be wild.
That would be insane.
I could see it in the sense where, Josh Jacobs or whatever, we get down the field, he's winded as hell, and then we throw a quick bootleg or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like the Kraft, or he throws one up to Watson or something, right?
So he could be like, 4 touchdowns, but 93 yards or something in the first half. But it's because we've been rushing all over him.
So I'll do Tyler's defense real quick because it's kind of crazy. He wrote New England had 9 sacks last week. The Packers won up them with 10.
Okay. Well, I'll do mine next time because I put the Bears gave up 9 sacks on Sunday. The Packers get at least 5.
All right.
Yeah.
I like to do the different levels because I knew everybody was going to go crazy with sacks, right?
Yeah.
So I also wrote 5 sacks, but I wrote with it 2 fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, 1 for a big man touchdown.
Oh man, my God, I hope so.
Dude, I need a big man touchdown so bad, dude. We need a big. The vibes are so good with a big man touchdown, bro.
Yeah, like Devontae Wyatt scooping that up and going into the end zone. For me, it's just like if we could have just a dominant defensive performance where we create like 4 turnovers, we get like 6-7 sacks. They score 3 to 6 points. I just feel like that would do so much for the psyche of this team.
So Darian said, I see Jordan Love with over 300 yards passing and 3 TDs in this game. I could see that too, honestly. Yeah. The Packers offense is so insane, and there's so many big plays that they can make that Jordan Love can throw a pass and they can go for 60 yards. And then, Josh Jacobs can run for 12 yards. And then all of a sudden, 10 yards later, Love is throwing another touchdown. I mean, it's just insane the big plays that this team can make.
I just caution. Yeah, I agree with you. They can make big plays. I just caution against anyone like losing their mind if Jordan Love has the type of game where he goes like 19 for 28 for 190 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick or something, because the secondary is good, right? But that would be fine as long as Josh Jacobs is also lighting it up. So
I mean, there's going to be context behind any performance, obviously. And if Love's, if Love is completing passes on second and third downs to put us in position to get down the field and score touchdowns, I'm not going to give a shit about the yardage total or the touchdowns, right?
Yeah.
As long as he's moving the offense down the field and we're finishing drives with touchdowns, not field goals.
If we finish with 32 points, but Jordan Love doesn't, throws 1 in touchdown, but we have Josh Jacobs has 2 and Emmanuel Wilson has 1, and we have an end around rushing touchdown by Jaden Reed or something, like, I don't care. Yeah. I just want us to have a big game against this team.
I agree. Justin said, I see the mid-range passing and crossing routes working well for us this week. I agree with that.
Yeah.
So I think that was a good episode. I think that was a little quick hitter for you. Hopefully the Packers get back to the winning column because things are kind of tightening up. We're in the 7th seed now, so it'd be nice to be 7-3 heading into that game versus the 49ers.
Yep.
And
they're one of the teams breathing on our neck.
If they can win that one, and then they go into Thanksgiving against the Dolphins at 8-3, coming off wins versus the Bears and the 49ers, I mean, I'll feel real good about where we're at.
Yeah.
I will be at Lambeau on Thanksgiving,
nice.
So that'll be a lot of fun.
And I'll be there against the 49ers.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Hey, Wisco's going to be representing back-to-back weeks at Lambeau, baby. I love that. So, anyways, thank you, everybody, for commenting along, following along, and Darian and Justin. Mainly you guys always fill up the comment section, so appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
We will be back next Tuesday to talk, hopefully, a Packers win over the Bears and preview the 49ers game. So, again, thank you. Go Packers, and see you next